We all know that K-pop is a huge phenomenon in today's world, with most of its groups being widely known and its culture enforced into the Western world. But beyond the umbrella of K-pop's popularity lies no more than 3 groups who have established their presence in the Western world beyond the idea of being a K-pop group, and have cemented themselves as global musical artists to the general public. Now, before I get into the video, I don't want to bore you with information before getting to the interesting bit. So let's start with that first. They were the most streamed and best-selling girl group of 2022 in the US. They are the first girl group to sell 1 million album copies in the US, the first K-pop girl group to win Breakthrough Artist at the Billboard Women in Music Awards, the first K-pop girl group to perform at a stadium, the first girl group to enact a US stadium tour, and the first girl group to sell out MetLife and SoFi Stadium. Now that we got that out of the way, I'm sure you know the answer to the question I proposed, but let's get into it. K-pop companies all seem to sign their groups with American labels after the found success of BTS's signing. Twice was not exempt from this and would sign with Republic Records, home of artists like Ariana Grande, Coi Leray and Drake, on February 25th, 2020, 5 years into their hit-filled career. But what would be the benefit of this? While some of us may still ask this question 3 years later, the main aim is to allow albums to be more accessible to a Western audience in a more cost-effective way. If a group doesn't have a good American distributor, albums can only be bought through Korean websites or import stores, which does not counter official American sales like the Billboard charts. It's much more costly and results in limited stock. However, these American music companies are not just distributors, they're labels. Music labels are responsible for marketing and promotion as well as previously covered topics. Further diving into the responsibility of Republic Records for Twice, it seems they have not upheld this standard when it comes to America. Lack of radio play, Spotify playlisting, and numerous other promotional activities typical of Western artists seem not to be upheld when it comes to Twice. Now, this could be due to the fact that Twice already has their official main label, JYP, who may still have creative control, leaving Republic Records solely as a distributor, which is possibly the case. But if this is true, JYP needs to be more open in communication in managing their artists in the West, because there's much more an American music company can do than simply retweet a post with a few emojis. Following the topic of distribution, have Twice even seen improvement since signing with their label? Well, with Twice being the first girl group to hit 1 million pure album sales in the US on June of 2023, I'm sure it has, but let's break it down. Also, just to note, I'll be focusing this part mostly on physical album sales rather than digital sales, since I believe physical is a bigger measure of popularity, growth and attention. The first comeback since signing with the American label would be More and More on the 1st of June, selling 6,000 album copies in the first week and placing it at number 200 on the Billboard 200. Whilst numbers were relatively low for a popular group like Twice, the instant chart appearance showed it was working right away. Every comeback from then on would significantly increase in sales, almost doubling and tripling every time, as well as constantly climbing the Billboard 200, the official albums chart. Between 1 and 2 will be Twice's first album to hit 100,000 US sales in the first week on the 26th of August 2022. Only 2 years after their signing. This would be the year where American critics would start to take an interest in Twice after they were beginning to settle into the American media comfortably, appearing on shows and having heavily acclaimed albums, but more on these later. This would bring us to the 10th of March, whereby Ready to Be would drop, Twice's highest selling album in the US. Twice had really been building up a solid foundation across the coming years, increasing their US Spotify debut streams and iTunes sales, just as well as their physical sales. And this all came together for the album. They sold 145,000 unit sales in the first week, the highest of any female K-pop act and their 4th top 10 appearance on Billboard 200. All this being done with relatively low amount of promotions across the years. So the burning question we still have is, what could Twice do with that extra push? Releasing English songs is nothing but standard for K-pop groups these days, but very little have had the effect and record-breaking achievements that Twice's 2 English singles have. Their first English single, The Feels, was dropped on the 1st of October 2021, and it was a hit from release. Surprisingly, Twice didn't abandon their distinct sound to fit with an American audience. Instead, they fed into it. Using a 90s disco pop track, they bursted into the American scene, leaving the general public with a constant urge to dance to the song and belt out its chorus. With the help of Twice's fans and keen radio presenters, The Feels will be blasted all over radios across the US, further spreading it wider than a Twice song had gone before. NME would go on to say, if the aim of this release is to garner attention, then their mission should be accomplished with this song. It will be their first Hot 100 appearance at number 83. It was their first song to spend more than 50 days on the Spotify Global 100, and is their second music video this century to hit 400 million views. Its impact was insane. Twice would even be called up to perform on Good Morning America, as well as gaining an interview, a huge step forward in their American presence. Their second English single, Moonlight Sunrise, would follow a similar formula of success, although being a completely different genre. It was Miami-based and R&B styled. It would land at number 84 on the Hot 100, making Twice's English releases a common talking point among music listeners. However, compared to The Feels, Moonlight Sunrise has no US promotions, besides a few tweets and TikTok videos. But does this statue chart placement show that Twice have only tapped into America and not made their presence known even after numerous years? I think we should turn to their tours to answer this. Twice's third tour in 2019, titled Twice Lights, would bring them to the US for the first time. They would have 3 dates, being Inglewood, Newark and Chicago. In 2019, Twice's career was probably at one of its biggest peaks, so the following capacity venues is shocking considering their fame within the K-pop community regardless, being 12,000, 10,000 and 6,000 respectively. But as Twice always seems to do, give it a few years and they'll come back 10 times better, which reigns true for their American journey. Their 4th world tour in 2022 would see them stop at 5 cities across 7 shows, averaging 100,000 people across these dates, being over 3 times higher in attendance than the last tour. Then JYP made one of the best decisions of their career, and hired Banc of California Stadium as an encore to the North American leg, making Twice the first K-pop girl group to perform at a US stadium. The date sold out in minutes due to Twice's heavily acclaimed performance, resulting in them adding a second date, averaging a crowd of 44,000 across the 2 days. But Twice did not stop there. Their ongoing tour this year, Ready to Be, is even more insane. Crossing 8 cities over 11 shows, they would average way over 200,000 attendees before an encore has even been announced. Further shocking news would be that Twice would book and sell out both SoFi and MetLife Stadium, both having a capacity of 50,000 for the tour, as well as selling out Truist Park at around 35,000 people, with all other dates averaging 20,000. It's a sentiment to Twice's insane ability to make wherever they go into their own market, cementing them in history as the first ever girl group to do a US stadium tour. They've been increasing their loyal American fanbase this whole time, and it's paying off, drawing in celebrities, critics and non-K-pop fans to their concerts. Convincing me that their growth and presence is unseeable is a joke. Twice are coming. I want to keep this section relatively short and sweet, since the next section is quite an informational dump. Plus, all media is readily accessible at a simple Google search. But let's go. I mentioned that Twice gained the attention of numerous critics across their years in America. Twice's natural talent and insane hard work would constantly bring rise to new articles springing up every few months and resulting in very acclaimed companies constantly watching and reporting. These include NME, Rolling Stone, Vogue, Los Angeles Times, the Recording Academy, or the Grammys, and so much more. The common theme between them all is either praising Twice for their records, innovation, or work ethic, or simply reviewing their music. I'll read out quotes from some of the articles Twice has gained over time. The members of K-pop's most beloved girl group continue on their quest to dominate the scene and eventually the world, said by MTV. Twice are not only ready to complete, they are ready to stake their claim to the top, said by Rolling Stone. An inspirational group that needs no introduction, their enthralling spirit and chemistry will make anyone in attendance an instantaneous fan, said by the Grammys. The group makes major strides towards establishing itself as a global K-pop leader, said by Times Magazine. The constant praise is sure to keep Twice in the mind of everyone who may stumble across them out of curiosity, and is a secret fuel to the fire of increasing popularity. But is it enough? Let's look to promotions. If a group is to break into a country, they need to define their presence. I want to look into Twice's US promotions to see how JYP has attempted to implement them into the US and see if it's worked. First, we'll talk performances on talk shows. Twice first appeared on Kelly Clarkson in April of 2021, performing Cry For Me. This was JYP's first ever American push for Twice, most likely due to the immense success Cry For Me had internationally. And since then, Twice would appear on Stephen Colbert, Good Morning America, Jimmy Fallon and Ellen DeGeneres, all being solely performances. Now this did improve the attention of Twice over the years, especially with those unknowing to the idea of K-pop, like when Twice performed in front of Pennsylvanian senates and political enthusiasts on Stephen Colbert due to the person Stephen was interviewing before Twice's performance. And this performance achieved significant praise from that political demographic. As stated before, these would all only be performances and would not include interviews, so the grasp on the public was not as influential as it may have seemed. Twice would have a small interview, answering pre-planned questions over Zoom on Good Morning America after the release of The Feels, before their performance, but it would be nothing special. On the 14th of March 2023, Twice would appear on The Kelly Clarkson Show for the second time, this time live in the studio, where they would hold their first full segment of an interview and performance. This sets us up perfectly to explain the influence of 2023 on Twice's Western popularity. Twice would spend close to 3 weeks in LA in the lead up to their fourth world tour encore at the Banc of California Stadium. In that time, they did double or triple the amount of promotions they've done in the past, and I will be a fool to say this wasn't the influence in their heightened presence in the US now. They would attend both Spotify and Apple Music's offices in a small collaboration. They would collab with Musicians on Call, a charity that works with hospital patients around America to bring music to them, and would light up the Empire State Building in Twice's colours due to this. They would release numerous YouTube videos with big brands like Elle, Vogue and GQ. They would have their second and third full-fledged interview with Odyssey Music and iHeartRadio, as well as probably the biggest push for popularity, attending and receiving an award at Billboard Women in Music Awards for Breakthrough Artists, again performing and getting an interview, turning the venue into a whole Twice concert. Every promotion I just listed took place in the same month, as a big lead up to their most recent comeback, Set Me Free. It was what Wanted had wanted for years, a chance for Twice to solidify their presence, not just show and go, but constantly be in the public eye over numerous weeks, showing people their demand and popularity, and boy do I think this trick worked. Their most recent promotion will be their City Concert Series, which happened on the 5th of July, 2 days before their MetLife Stadium concert. It would see Twice perform 3 songs on a plaza in front of the public. It resulted in amazement and excitement by the news presenters and a constant flow of passerbys watching from the side. Again, Twice was bringing their presence straight to the public, a perfect plan. I'm sure there's so much more I could talk about in this department, but I wanted to focus solely on the influential or developmental aspects of their promotions. Now, what's the verdict? The question I proposed to you all was, have Twice broken to the US? And my answer is, mostly. K-pop has an incredible fandom power that is not only solely related to the group they are standing. For example, if a K-pop group was to tour in a country for the first time, no matter what fan you are, you will probably try your best to attend said concert, solely due to the idea of it being a K-pop concert. This translates into everyday life. The average K-pop fan is bound to know Twice since they are one of the top groups in that genre. So as K-pop's awareness and acceptance in the US increases, as will Twice's popularity. But in my eyes, that is not breaking into the US. Breaking into a country must go beyond fandom power. Does the random person walking down the street know the artist's name, their face or their song? Or have they at least heard of them? Do they accept them? These are all questions I ask myself when thinking of breaking in. And if we implement this onto Twice, I believe you could do this with a relatively high success rate, which is where the mostly comes from. Their streams, sales and selling power in the US are all undeniable, but what part is fandom and what part is not? If JYP continues to push Twice with the constant trajectory that they are, I believe it won't be long before Twice is one of the token girl groups of the world, the staple girl group from every country that defined a generation. You can already walk down the street seeing people wear their merch, blasting their songs out loud, but I know there's more to be done. JYP has built foundations across numerous countries for the main support of making Twice global, pushing Twice high and stable enough for America to take the reins when the time is right. It will become their playground, and I can only hope for the day they are truly recognised and honoured correctly for their efforts. An award is long overdue. JYP does not want Twice to settle quietly into America. They want their presence forever increasing, and for that reason, I don't believe Twice have broken to the US. They are breaking into the US with an unfathomable amount of force.